get started, so I please ask for any of our elected officials to please join me on the stage at this time. I didn't get to number them for you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you this morning as we gather for Orlando United Day, a day as we mark the one-year remembrance of the Pulse nightclub tragedy. We continue to honor the 49 souls who will forever live within our hearts, and we continue to embrace and comfort their loved ones, families, friends, and survivors. Before we begin today's ceremony, I'd like to thank our elected and community leaders for joining us this morning. Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs, Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer, Orange County Commissioners Betsy Vanderlei, Brian Nelson, Jennifer Thompson, Emily Bonilla, Victoria Siplin, and Pete Clark, City of Orlando Commissioners Tony Ortiz and Patty Sheehan, U.S. Congressman Darren Soto, Orange County Tax Collector Scott Randolph, Orange County Comptroller Phil Diamond, Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor Daisy Morales, and our very special guest joining us this morning, FBI Special Agent Ron Hopper, FDLE Special Agent in Charge Danny Banks, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse Nightclub and founder of the One Pulse Foundation, and Mark Ebenhock, Executive Director of Hope, Unity, and Global Equality and Section 93 Escort. Thank you to each of you for being here this morning. Today, on the one-year remembrance, we reflect on how we as a community have changed and what we have learned in the last year. We've seen an outpouring of compassion, kindness, and healing from all corners of the world, proving that love is a force so powerful it can melt away fear and dissolve hate. It is this love that runs deep in Orlando and Orange County, and in a time of great darkness, it was love that gave us light and united us in our shared bond of humanity. And so it's fitting, then, that we gather to commemorate the one-year mark as a day of love and kindness. We honor the cherished legacies of the 49 by acting with that spirit of love and kindness, not just today, but every day moving forward. Today we also prepare for the second time to proudly fly Section 93 of the C2C rainbow flag, an iconic symbol of LGBT freedom and strength, and an even more telling symbol of our clear support of diversity and inclusion here in Orlando and Orange County. To get us started, it's now my distinct privilege to introduce one of our community's greatest champions of equality and inclusion, as well as a mentor and friend to me, Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs.
Good morning. Yes, this morning. It was nearly a year ago today that we gathered to fly Section 93 of the C2C rainbow flag here. The story of how we came to fly the sacred cloth from the County Administration Building is a story perhaps of fate, but I believe it was a story of divine intervention. In the wake of the Pulse tragedy, you may remember that we invited faith-based leaders from every denomination to join us in our chambers to show their support for our LGBTQ community. Our community's faith-based leaders delivered. The chambers were packed with members of the faith-based community, but also with key leaders from our LGBTQ community. The faith leaders expressed their deep condolences and their sentiments of support for the members of our LGBTQ community, perhaps the first time I've ever witnessed that. In solidarity, where the differences that separate us became invisible and the bonds of humanity that unite us became unbreakable. What we didn't know at that moment was that in our midst, sitting in the audience, was Mark Ebenhock, Mark was desperately trying to find a place to fly Section 93 of the C2C rainbow flag. As soon as the event ended, Mark approached us and inquired about potential locations. Immediately we thought, what better place to hang this flag, to show this flag, than from the top of the county administration building. What more symbolic gesture could we make to show how far our community comes and how broad and wide the support is for our LGBT community in their time of greatest need and in every day since and forever into the future. As many of you know, the C2C rainbow flag is known as a sacred cloth and is globally recognized as a symbol of the LGBTQ community. I can tell you candidly that 10 years ago, I could never have imagined that we would be able to fly this flag, or that we could do so without an outpouring of outrage and objections. I am also proud to tell you that we received one single comment of disagreement in a county 1.3 million large. Here in Orlando and Orange County, our compassion and our culture of inclusion and acceptance have shined brightly throughout the past year. And we continue to embrace the values of the rainbow flag. It is those values that has made our community what it is. It is the values of acceptance, of understanding, of inclusion, the very values of the C2C flag. Together we must continue to work to erase those lines that separate us. We must continue on the charge that we were given on June 12, 2016, when 49 members of our community became our 49 Pulse Angels. And we have our obligation here on earth to do our part to ensure that their loss is never forgotten and that the change they wanted to see is the change that we insist happens in our time, in our lifetime, here in this community and across the world. Now, in honor of how our community has come together, and in honor of Orlando United Day, it is my pleasure to present a joint proclamation with Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer. Mayor Dyer, will you join me? Whereas on June 12, 2016, the most tragic day in the history of the Orlando community, and this year and for each successive June 12th, we will forever be reserving this day to honor the 49 lives taken from us too soon, as well as those harmed that morning at the Pulse nightclub.
And whereas the tragedy deeply impacted our LGBTQ plus and X and other communities of color, as well as countless Central Floridians, families, friends, and advocates worldwide.
And whereas in the hours, days, and weeks and months that followed the tragedy, our community united in solidarity to stand with the broken-hearted families and loved ones and came out in great numbers to support the injured and the affected.
And whereas we will always remember that Orlando responded to hate with an unprecedented display of love and unity, and we will always be remembered as a community that confronted tragedy with the best that humanity has to offer. And
whereas in response, we did not stand alone during our darkest days, but instead we inspired not just our neighbors, but also friends from across the globe to stand with us and our community by becoming Orlando United and showing the world that love can defeat hate. And
whereas June the 12th will officially be dedicated to honoring the memory of the 49 innocent victims, to supporting the survivors, to comforting the grieving, and to recognizing the compassion and love that was displayed by the Central Florida community following the tragedy. Now, therefore, we,
Orange County Mayor Teresa Jacobs,
and Mayor Buddy Dyer,
do hereby proclaim this
from
day
this day
forward
forward that June the 12th will be Orlando
United
United Day,
a day of love and kindness.
Thank you, Mayor Jacobs, and thank you all for being here this morning. I know we have a day of a lot of events, but each one of them is important for different reasons. A year ago was the darkest day by far in our city's history, and since that morning we've come together in so many different ways to support the survivors, the victims' families, the first responders. Just on Saturday, We had a 4.9K race to honor the victims. We had a CrossFit event to honor the victims and their families, and I think it's so many different ways that different communities have found to do that. In the face of terror, this community showed the world that what the best of humanity looks like. And United Orlando Day is now going to be an annual remembrance to unite our community in honoring the victims and vowing to support the families and survivors. And each year on this day, we'll remind the world what love and kindness looks like. A year ago today, the true character of our city was fully revealed, that Orlando is a diverse and inclusive community. And I'm proud that we have long been a leader in advancing policies that promote equality and embrace diversity, from anti-discrimination ordinances that include gender identity, to a domestic partner registry, to one of the most moving days I've had as mayor, which was when I married 44 same-sex couples on the steps of City Hall the first day that we were legally allowed to do that in the state of Florida. But even in a place as welcoming as Orlando, there's still work to do. And to honor the legacy of the 49 beautiful souls, we can't simply be bystanders. We must continue to promote equality and embrace diversity. So I hope that the next year and the next year and 10 years from now, the legacy that we leave behind is that love always wins over hate. Thank you for being here, and I'd like to call on Commissioner Patty Sheehan now.
Thank you, Mayor. Real honor for me to be here today to unveil the C2C flag, which was designed by Gilbert Baker, which became a symbol for LGBTQ visibility at a time when we needed a way to kind of symbolize the LGBTQ community, and it was this beautiful flag. And I want to thank Mayor Jacobs and Mayor Dyer for their commitment to equality. And Mayor Dyer, you've been my ally in this for many, many years, and I want to thank you for that. And Mayor Jacobs, you have had an honest epiphany and understanding, and this is a real symbol to us in the LGBTQ community, and I want to thank you for everything you've done to embrace my community. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you to both of you for your leadership. The Pulse Massacre taught our community to open their hearts and minds and foster inclusiveness and understanding. And as a leader in the LGBTQ community, I've often been attacked for wanting to stand for inclusion and talk about everyone who was impacted by this tragedy. The sexual, transgender, questioning the Hispanic and Q Latinx community and people of color. And I wish people would understand that we're usually the people on the other side of the weapons. And we have responded to that with love and kindness and decency. We've responded to hatred with love. That's just who my community is. And I'm so proud of my community, the LGBTQ community, the Q Latinx community, and people of color who have always understood why diversity and inclusion is so very, very important. Thank you. One year ago today, I was frantically searching at the Pulse nightclub and I didn't know where she was. And I found out that she was okay. And it was one of the greatest blessings of my life during one of the greatest tragedies of my life. And she has been a stalwart champion for those who were lost, for the families and support for them, and for supporting the victims. I'd like to welcome my dear friend, Barbara Poma.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good. Mayor Jacobs, for inviting me to be part of this important moment. I remember first learning about the history of this C2C flag. I remember thinking about how a different time we lived in when this flag had to be made. It represented an era of inequality, ignorance, and fear. More importantly, it represented how the LGBTQ+ people have been standing up and fighting against hate for a very long time. I can tell you that so many people in our community did just that on June 12th last year. We stood up, we stood together, and we took care of one another. While so many mourned, there were more who rose up and ran to help. And together, Orlando showed the world its true colors. Orlando is proof that love always wins. Today, You're going to hear the word love a lot, and that is our word for the day, love and kindness. We are here to honor our victims and their legacy and to offer our continued support for our survivors and all those affected on that dark night. It is often talked about how we all so that we can continue to be create change. One of my many personal experiences from Pulse that resonates with me always is the story, I call it. And I don't mean one story. I mean the story of one reoccurring theme, acceptance. I started hearing people's Pulse stories the day of the tragedy, and I am still hearing them today. I came out there. I learned how to do my makeup there. I learned how to walk in heels there. I met my husband or my wife there. It was my first gay bar. It was the first time I ever felt accepted. And this one always gets me. They became my family when mine wouldn't be. All of these stories continue to comfort me because they reassure me that Pulse was a happy place. Pulse made a difference, and this is what keeps me going. Going forward now, Pulse will always embody the memory of our 49, its survivors, and all affected, and it will do so with honor and love. With all that said, I am proud to introduce Mark Eckenbach, the Executive Director of Hope, Unity, and Global Inequality. I know of the Sacred Cloth.
Good morning. 526,222 minutes ago, the world lost 49 vibrant, angelical lives for no other reason than hate. Today we're here to remember them. Today we're here to honor them. One of them was my friend. Many thanks to the survivors, the responders, Barbara, Poma, and the Pulse family, Mayor Jacobs, Mayor Dyer, Commissioner Sheehan, the communities of Orlando and Central Florida, for allowing us to honor them today with Section 93. My name is Mark Eckenbach. I am the Executive Director of Hope, Unity, and Global Equality based in Key West, Florida. The flag that will be unveiled soon is Section number 93 of the Key West C2C flag, originally unfurled across the island of Key West in June of 2003. 1 year ago, it arrived from the White House directly, nonstop to Orlando, to help comfort a wounded and a mourning community and nation. This 25-foot section is one of the 250 cut from the original 1.25-mile-long flags, the longest LGBT flag ever produced in the world, stretching from the Gulf of Mexico across to the Atlantic Ocean, hence the C2C name. Last year, envisioned by businessman and longtime Key West resident Greg McGrady, who we lost last year, the C2C flag was sewn in Key West by the originator of the Key West, or the LGBT flag, Gilbert Baker himself, in commemoration of the 25th anniversary of his original 1978 eight-colored rainbow flag, flown in San Francisco. Today, this section is very, very special, and that's one of the reasons it's here today. Since 2003, Section 93 has traveled to numerous historic events nationwide as well as worldwide, from Vancouver, Canada to Manchester, United Kingdom, and that trip years ago just gave us pause recently due to the latest tragedy there. From the Supreme Court a little over 2 years ago to the wedding of the last of the Obergefell plaintiffs, from Kim Davis's office in Moorhead, Kentucky, to the hands of the U.S. and French ambassadors in Sydney, Australia, to the White House, and from the White House in D.C. last year directly to Orlando 1 year ago. It has been a beacon of hope, peace, comfort, and a powerful symbol of the LGBTQ and allied communities, its history and its struggles to be accepted as human beings worldwide. When Gilbert created that first flag in 1978, he thought long and hard to utilize something that brought many things together in one visually powerful symbol. Those meanings combined. He assigned a meaning to each color. Those meanings combined are what make it such a powerful symbol worldwide. Most people are familiar with the 6-color rainbow flag, but his original was 8 colors. 2 colors were originally dropped early on due to commercial availability. For those not aware of the meanings of each of the original 8 color flags that Gilbert used, they are as follows. Hot pink is used for sex or sexuality. Red is for life. Orange is for healing. Yellow for sunlight. Green is for harmony in nature. Turquoise is for art. Indigo is for human harmony. Violet is for spirit. Notice that none of those colors mean hate. Yesterday, it was in D.C. leading the March for Equality and Pride on behalf of this community and the state of Florida. It flew overnight here to Orlando. I'm pretty sure Mayor Jacobs and many others here today can attest to its comforting presence. Friday, it was in the nation's capital, in the rotunda and on the front of the U.S. Capitol building. Twice it has returned here to the exact same spot. In hope that it continues to globally represent the LGBTQ movement, symbolizing acceptance, understanding, education, solidarity, and inclusion. Orlando has become a part of Section 93's proud history, its storied history, and we hope it now becomes a part of Orlando's heart. Hope, Unity, and Global Equality was founded this year to continue the legacy of this powerful symbol and to see it inducted into the National Museum of American History. We honor Gilbert Baker today as he was given his wings on March 31st of this year. In Gilbert's own words, the rainbow flag has become far more than just a flag. It gives people hope, and I agree with that. I think everyone else there does too. There is a display this morning in the first floor atrium paying tribute to Gilbert's life and works, and there's also some wonderful Pulse artwork on the walls. Please spend some time to look at it. Hate will not win. I'm glad and honored to reintroduce Mayor Jacobs back to the podium. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
All right, so
Do we
at
have
this
a drum
point,
roll?
We're actually going to introduce the Central Florida Sounds of Freedom, who are going to cue the release of the flag. Central Florida Sounds of Freedom, we're going to turn it over to you. This concludes today's ceremony. I'd like to thank again all of our program participants, Mayor Jacobs, Mayor Dyer, Commissioner Sheehan, Barbara Poma, Mark Ebenhock, Central Florida Sounds of Freedom. Thank you for being here and lending us your talents. Thank you all for being here. The C2C flag will remain on display here at the county building until the end of the week. And also, please remember that in the spirit of today's theme, A Day of Love and Kindness, there are a couple ways to demonstrate your support of this movement here at Orange County Administration. If you wish to donate blood, the One Blood bus will remain on site until 2 p.m. today, and there's also an opportunity to write a personal message of love on rainbow ribbons we have set up right by the entrance to the building. And if time allows, please be sure to visit the first floor atrium to see some of the beautiful artwork we have in display that pays tribute to Pulse. Thank you.